Welcome
Okay.
to Ending the Day. I'm delighted to welcome Alex Koffman in Chicago. And without further ado, Alex, would you like to play us Ending for today and tell us a little bit about your choice before we dive into the chat and the rest of the program?
Yes, thank you very much, Ilana. I'm going to play a Nigun that you sent me. It's Nigun number 75. Nothing much information about it. It was just recorded in one white church, interesting in white church um, in Kiev region in 1929. And I'm going to play right next to it. I will be playing Nigun number 41, which is basically a dance, a Skochna dance. The first one is kind of, I feel like it's a little bit more like a nostalgic, maybe a little bit more like a mournful. And the second one is definite nigun of dance and happiness. And, oh, wait a second. I need to get my hat, my magic hat, so people know I'm from Chicago. Okay, now I'm the hat, I'm gonna start. Here you go.
Fabulous.
Thank you. Um, so can I say something about the interesting thing that happened to me when you contacted me and asked me to do Beregovski tunes? That was a very interesting, immediate, instant call. I mean, not only that I am honored to do that, but also because back in when I was in college, I remember we were studying, and of course there was Soviet time, and it was specifically that Soviet time when they were criticizing Israel, and anything, you know, having to do with Jewish musical culture would be highly criticized, and it was basically prohibited. I couldn't really play it, I couldn't really, you know, study, it was nothing. But in 1963, under Khrushchev, there was a little warm situation in Russia where all the cultures kind of were welcomed, and the Jewish people were, like, you know, a little bit more again getting out of their sort of hiding places, or if I could say so. And came out some records at this time, and along with that came the Beregovski book. It was in Russian, obviously, it was in Russian. And it was a very, I would say, a very small circulation, maybe about 1,200, and that's all. And I remember that somebody brought it in, and after we studied, like about 9 or 10 o'clock, you know, at night, when practically no one could hear us, there was 3 or 4 of us that would get together and go, oh my God, look at this, look at that. I don't believe exactly what was the volume that we were looking at. I believe it's the one that's called melodies, or it's in English it's called Honey and Tears, where he would put all the tunes to different regions, so regions of Russia and Belarus, and he would also describe each tune according to the need that it was used. So it's very interesting. So it's also kind of, that's one of the very dear thing to me, to kind of contribute to this, because I always like walking around thinking about it.
Interesting. Do you still have that book, Alex, or did you leave it behind?
Oh, no way, no, somebody just brought it in, almost like a bomb, you know, just we're gonna play it. So we played it, and then he took it back. This person was like, don't talk to anyone. So it was like a big secret. Now I'm playing it to the world, and I'm so happy doing it.
It's fantastic. So interesting. And could you talk a little bit about how you came to leave and come to Chicago, or is that not something you want to?
Oh yeah. No, it's absolute pleasure.
Were you playing professionally already when you were leaving, or before you left?
Yes. I was brought up as a classical music study violinist, and I, you know, already graduated from musical college, pardon me, and from Conservatory of Music. Then I was drafted to the Soviet Army. And then after I came from Soviet Army, I started working. I was working at Belarusian TV and playing an orchestra and recording some music there too. And that's when the perestroika and glasnost started, you know, erupting, and made it very, you know, very possible to leave against all the friends' suggestions that I should stay because everything's going to be good. I decided to leave because I strongly believe that somebody needed to change the pace of the history of my family. And after I served in Russian army, I completely understood that there's no way I'm going to have my family here, where, you know, where you know, I felt very unprotected, and my family would be unprotected, my kids would be unprotected, and couldn't be even, you know, feeling Jewish. Although I have to say that when I remember myself growing up as a little boy, I would go to the little town near Gomel region. It's in Belarus, and it's called Brechica. At this time, it was still a small town. You could see many people who were just after the war. Many Jews were there. But the remarkable thing is about my grandfather, who was one man who would serve everything. He was actually a very educated man, and he would sing. He would be a cantor. He would do the breezes. He would do everything. So also he was very, very musical and very emotional. And I remember that people would gather together, and if we gathering together, we had a big family. I remember that it would not be one celebration without singing and was out playing. My father played mandolin, not professionally, but and he had a great voice, not like mine. My mom was also very, very musical. So the family is musical, and I always loved the music. And when I heard my dad actually played mandolin, but mostly my grandfather, he would say, listen, kid, this is our music, this is our heritage. You have to listen to it. You have to do it. And I was lucky enough to have him eventually coming over to Chicago, and now over Sholem, but we had great time. He was Rev Tzvi, and we had a lot of yichus here, right? Everyone was really respectful of him. And yeah, he taught me a lot, and I kind of like, sometimes when I play, I hear him. I hear him sort of in my ears.
Mm. I want to hear more, but also I want to hear you play some more. Do you have another tune you want to give us at this point?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I want to talk about the tunes that are they're very prominent in the Hasidic community, and some of them I really, really like a lot. Like this one. Actually, I'm going to play two of them, if you don't mind. Okay, so one would be like a slower and sort of like mournful, and the other one would be like basically a call for Mashiach to come. So you can imagine that there would be, a choir of men choir, and that would be joined by children. So, but the first one is kind of slow, and then I'll turn the page and we'll go on. All right.
there's a lot of reaction. You can't see it in the comments, Alex, but it's just like wonderful. Really enjoying your playing. Sounds amazing. Go, Alex. That's fabulous. Thank you so much. So what happened when you got to the States?
Oh, interesting. Very good. You're good. Right questions.
Okay, good.
Yes, when I came to the States, I actually thought that I'm going to give up on violin playing. And then there was two things that happened simultaneously. The first thing was that I've met a very distinguished gentleman who said that if you're happy what you're doing, that's already more than 50% happiness goes to you right there. And the other 50%, you'll find because it attracts each other. These things attract each other. He was absolutely right. I totally agree. And I'm going to say it again and again. So what happened was this. I came and people around me were telling me that it is impossible to stay as a violinist and it's very, very hard. It is hard. And you need to go and do what? Programming. And so computer programming was my thing. I learned COBOL in DePaul University. And then almost when I already was ready to, to finish, I started looking for a job. A friend of mine now, over Sholem, Grisha Gutnik, and he said, hey, listen, there's a very interesting place in Chicago. It's called Cafe Continental. I want you to hear, there's a band playing Jewish music. And I could not believe my eyes and I could not believe my ears when I came and I was in ecstasy. I'm serious. It was complete, unbelievable feeling. I've met Lori Lipitz, and Lori Lipitz is founder of the Maxwell Street Klezmer band. If Lori is here, she knows. He heard me. And yes, and we instantly kind of have a sympathy and for the same thing to do, to develop the sort of Jewish cultural movement, if you wish, in Chicago. Because at this time, very few people would know about Jewish weddings, about Jewish traditions and so on. And Lori is very knowledgeable, and also she spoke Russian. It was very easy for me to connect with her. And so we started kind of, we sort of tip the water and see if it works. And yes, it did. And then we decided, okay, we were going to form the Maxwell Street Klezmer band, and not to form, but I'm going to enter the Maxwell Street Klezmer band as a real member of the band, and I was trained to do some arrangements and compositions, and classically trained. I was very attracted because people were playing in the band. They played a lot of jazz, and that was my kind of thing. I was also fascinated. I'm fascinated with different styles of music, and I started learning. Klezmer. I remember those Leon Schwartz, I would say, all the recordings and so on. And I remember that Debbie Strauss, she used to live in Chicago, and she would show me a few tricks, and it was great. It was, then from now on, the things started erupting more and more interesting, and before I noticed, I became like a very valuable member of the band, I believe, and started doing more arrangements. So we started traveling around, and I'm very happy with that. Basically, my musical appetite was completely satisfied because of everything we've been doing, and I had a big freedom, to do whatever I want.
Been going now, Alex. It's many years, I think.
Sorry?
How many years has the band been going now?
Oh, the band was actually formed in 1983.
Wow.
And I immigrated in 1989 and met Lori at the end of in 1990.
Okay, so you're coming up for an anniversary, or you just had an anniversary maybe with the band?
Yeah, we just had a nice number. That's right.
How about another tune?
Numbers too. That's good.
Yeah, another tune.
Another tune. Okay, let me do something that is kind of. I just want to say something about the Niguns. I believe that this is not some kind of like a museum piece of music that, we've done and we recorded. It's very great, beautiful. But I also learned that in the Orthodox community, it's still very, very, live and breathing thing. And I, I have some students. One of my students, his name is Ken Elkin. I don't see, but maybe he's watching right now. We were playing. I was listening closely to his playing, and it was very interesting. One day he came in, he says, "Listen, Alex, you know what? I just can't get rid of this melody. Just in my mind, I almost, I know how to play it, but I don't, maybe you could help me putting it down." So I did put it down, and so he brought it in, and I brought this piece right here. I just want to kind of like demonstrate Ken's piece as I think a great example of that. This style is still well alive and well flourishing. There's nothing that is going to stop it because the community is still alive and community is still observing just exactly the way it used to be. It doesn't matter that they have cell phones, that they have modern technology, but all the rules, all the nishoma belongings are still there. So I really appreciate it. And so with that, I'm going to play this Nigel, and he called it, let me see, what he called it, Reb Yehezkel's Nigel. Hope I pronounce it correct. Oh, by the way, it's kind of interesting. You see, when I transcribe it, there's like a lot of time changes, which is another good thing because you could see that, it's somebody who is breathing, like singing. There you go.
Gorgeous. I think we have the composer here. Can I? He's waving. Let me just take the spotlight off you. Do you want to make it a comment or say hi?
Hello. Thank you, Alex, for doing this. No, I think what Alex was saying is very true, that this music is still very alive, and it's absolutely used in religious life in terms of praying and learning. It's, what can I say? It's still very, very dynamic.
Thank you. Yeah. Part of the living tradition still.
Absolutely.
Mm.
Yes. Wonderful. So just we're probably close to the. I mean, do we have some time more, or maybe a little bit more? A little more? Just a few things I'd like to say that here in Chicago we established the junior Klezmer band, which consists of little kids, not little, but basically from the age 10 and up. We started it in 1994. And I believe we've had a very big success with that because, by the way, right now we have about 80% Russian-speaking language kids. They're very funny, they're very nice, they're great, quick learners. This is like my second life with them. I have to watch my language too, because they understand, they laugh. And so it's interesting how they find that the Klezmer, the Jewish culture is much more appealing to them because, in many ways, their parents couldn't be and didn't have a chance, basically, just like me, to study, religious, not to be religious observance, not to be completely, actually, many of them already now, observing many things, but not to study Hebrew and stuff like that. And for them, it's just like a very good connecting point. It's a good connecting point between the, generations. And I think it's very, very important. So that's probably my message that I would like to put in, having kids just makes me feel really good. Brilliant.
Yeah, I think I'll be in touch about that. I want to get something like that going in the UK because we don't really have anything like that for kids here. And I saw it when I was in Finland. They're doing it with the Finnish folk music. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Wonderful. Wonderful.
We'll keep in touch. Have you got one more lot of music if you...
Oh, is that one more? All right, here it is. There's a tune that I don't even know where I got from. I have no idea. Okay, I kind of like the way it sounds. I'm going to play it, so I don't even know how it's going to turn out. But I've been like going through my library and oh, wait a second, what is this tune? And I kind of liked it. And it says Makanavetsky's Gasaniga #2. Go figure. I suspecting it's probably it came from Ukraine, so it was probably from the Hasidic or Chabad maybe traditions from Ukraine back then. You know what? I don't see it well. I need my glasses. 1 second. Wow.
That is a great piece. I think it might be another Beregovski, actually. Interesting. Fabulous.
You know what? It does sound like it's one of those, right? Isn't it?
I think Beregovski might have been one of his informants who had a band. He collected a few things from him, maybe. I'll look it up when we get off the Zoom. Somebody else wonders if your instrument has a history also.
Oh, yes. This instrument is a very dear instrument. It has a very interesting story behind it. So if you remember, I mentioned about two people that I met approximately at the same time. One was Lori Lipitz, that we decided to make professional and make it more arrangements and so on and so on. And the other person I said that taught me about 50% at least being happy with my work. This gentleman is an attorney, and he once came to Cafe Continental to listen to the band. And when he was listening to the band, he noticed me. And at this time, I played a very bad violin because my good violin wasn't possible to get out of. They would confiscate everything. So anyway, so he approached me. He says, "Well, you're playing a very bad instrument, you know." He says, "Here's my card. I want you to see me at my home." So I came to his home knowing nothing was going to happen. And so he listened to my story on my broken English. And he decided, well, you know what? You're trustworthy man. I'm going to give you my violin. This violin has a very special dear history. I bought it with my last money when I was marrying my now late wife, Beth, and this violin was like full of love of mine. So let's see if it's going to do something for you. And eventually he let me borrow it for 2 years until I kind of like stood on my own feet. And then eventually he said, you know what, I want you to have it. And so he just basically sold it out to me just with a very nice price, I have to say. It's a great violin. Actually.
What a fabulous thing to happen. You obviously deserved it. How wonderful.
No.
Oh, has anybody else got any other questions for Alex before we wrap up? Everybody just says thank you. Very beautiful. Australians are loving it.
Thank you, Australia.
Thank you so much for being with us, Alex. It's been a real treat to hear you play and also to hear how interesting your life has been and with the Maxwell Street Band, the wonderful city of Chicago.
Thank you so much, Ilana. Again, I really appreciate what you're doing. And people out there, if you care, if you do have your heart, donate. And please donate. There is a link below. Please do it. This is a very good thing to do. You will feel better as a Jew. Am I right?
This man's good. He is good. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you for coming.